Talked about it yesterday, just that chip on your shoulder. Everyone talking about a neutral AFC championship game, not even thinking about you guys. How much did that motivate you coming into this?
You better send those refunds.
I'm from the city where they gotta play us. Fuck a coin flip, it's time to pay up. Don't cross the middle, 21 in the cut. We ain't hiding from nobody, run and tell them it's up. I'm from the city where they gotta play us. Fuck a coin flip, it's time to pay up. Don't cross the middle, 21 in the cut. We ain't hiding from nobody, run and tell them it's up. Back-to-back champs, kings of the north with it. Thinking they can hang with us, still ain't jumped out the porch with it. Long bomb to chase every Sunday, watch him go and get it. Double up on him, then we gon' double down on T. Higgins. Then throw Boyd in the mix, now you really iffy. Every Sunday showing boys how to really gritty. They try to shuffle up the game on us, but they ain't icky. Flip the coin, kick the toe right to the go and get it. Never know what's gonna happen when Joe drop back. He get shiesty in the pocket, I get shiesty on the track. Nobody on the team all pro, that's all cap. Most all around team in the NFL, that's all fact. Ain't came across nobody yet that seem like they can hang with us. They said we couldn't be Buffalo, but see how we call they bluff. Underdogs every week, they keep on trying to label us. Put your money on us, even if Vegas don't favor us. No matter what, we really came up, now it's hard to fail. I dare you come across that middle, Von gon' ring your bell. I know we under they skin, them boys built frail. Eli Apple out there chirping like a next tail. You don't want Salmon Trey to come off them ends. Rita clogging up the middle like a big body Benz. Right behind them Logan and Pratt, the turnover twins. Jesse Bates in the backfield just to clean up the loose ends. We just drafted Cam and drafted Hill. Instant gratification every time that they on the field. We can't go back to what we was, cause that's the loser way. It's been hard to throw on us since we picked up a woozy. It's like win after win, feel like we could really do it. Zach Taylor doing his thing for the city, I give it to him. And I bet Samaji will find a hole if you give it to him. Hayden Hurst don't need a hole, he just plan on running through him. Just hand it off to 28 and let him do the dash. Getting hit by BJ Hill probably feel like a car crash. Every week it seem like Lou digging deeper in his bag. And if the game on the line, all my favorite money match. I'm from the city where they gotta play us. Fuck a coin flip, it's time to pay up. Don't cross the middle, 21 in the cut. And we ain't hiding from nobody, run and tell them it's up. I'm from the city where they gotta play us. Fuck a coin flip, it's time to pay up. Don't cross the middle, 21 in the cut. And we ain't hiding from nobody, run and tell them it's up.
What do we say, Dolph?
They gotta play us! That's right, they gotta play us. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the show. This is Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm your host, the Iceman, Jeff Trunipole. And as always, I'm bringing you sports from a West Side point of view right here in the great city of Cincinnati, Ohio, home of Joe Mixon, who's not guilty, and the AFC North champion, Cincinnati Bengals. Now, do me a favor. If you found the show, hit that like and subscribe button. Smash that thumbs up. You guys are awesome. I'm up to 2,324 subscribers. As always, I appreciate every single one of you guys. If you're watching on Facebook or Twitter and you have yet to subscribe to my channel, why not? Please do so. Please go to the YouTube channel, Sports with Strawberry Ice. Hit the subscription button, hit the bell for notification, and every time I go live, you'll be notified. Also, exclusively in the YouTube chat crew, if you want to support the show, we're doing super chats. You got a question for Dallas, who's the new partner of Jay Morrison. We all love Jay, but we're going to get to love Dallas. Anyway, we'll get to know him. Give me a super chat. I greatly appreciate it. And as always, I'm coming to you live from this glorious place down here. It's the Ice Cave, and the Ice Cave is brought to you by T Properties. T Properties, quality housing for quality people. Check out the website at www.tpropertiesllc.com for all your rental property management needs and your rental needs. And you know what? I wear it every single day. I got the hat on. I got the shirt on. We got the flag. It's all at jackpotjoey9.com. Portions of the proceeds go to the Joe Burrow Hunger Relief Fund and the Joe Burrow Foundation. We also have the beer, which is right behind me. It is out. It's canned. It's at the major Kroger's is what I've been told. I'm not sure which one, but it's out there. So if you guys want any of the Jackpot Joey award-winning delicious Jackpot Joey beer, go there and check it out. And like I said, portion of the proceeds for that goes to the Joe Burrow Foundation. Also, one other thing going on, the Jackpot Joey Cornhole Tournament. It's going to be at Brick Brewery October 14th. It's part of their Chili Fest. 100% of the proceeds go to the Joe Burrow Foundation. So go to any of Brink Brewery's social media sites. You can actually go to the bar itself, the brewery there, and you can sign up. And you guys can get the cornhole tournament and try to challenge me in the cornhole tournament. What's up to everybody in the chat? What's up, Brad? Your first strangers in there. Johnny Pap's in there. Tebow's in there. Joe's in there. Chris. Tebow, get what's it? What are you saying? What are you saying? Oh, yeah, let's get my subscriber count up. I agree with you. Get low. What's going on? And Michael, what is up? All right, everybody. So we have a I mean, he's from Cincinnati. He lives in Minnesota. He's joining, or Jay Morrison is joining him. They got a new podcast, it's Pro Football Network. Let's get some love. Let's get to Dallas here. Dallas, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
Jeff, how are you? Thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate it. Good to talk to you.
No problem whatsoever. So we all were, as Bengals fans, we all love Jay Morrison when he was on The Athletic. Him and Paul Dana did a great job on the podcast there. Now he's moved on. He's with you guys. Just give a little background of Pro Football Network and the podcast you guys got going on.
Absolutely. So we are beyond excited to have Jay at PFN. Didn't know this was going to be a possibility heading into the summer, but he was able to join us to cover the Bengals this year, do the great coverage that he always does. And yeah, I was given the opportunity to pod alongside Jay, which was something I never thought I'd be able to say. I was a huge fan of Jay's podcast with Paul as well. Still I'm a fan of that podcast. But yeah, we're doing something new. Me and Jay every Tuesday. We're 2 episodes in. It's extremely fun. We're covering everything. Jay's on the ground in Cincinnati. He's at the games. I'm up here in Minnesota. Kevin giving a more wide-ranging viewpoint on the NFL. So yeah, it's been fun so far, and we're excited to cover this season.
Now you're actually from Cincinnati, right?
Correct. Yep. Moved there when I was 11 years old in 2001. So it struggled through a couple seasons, but got to really enjoy those Carson Palmer years. I was at the game where Carson Palmer tore his ACL, unfortunately. One of my worst memories of my life. But right. I was there. But yeah, moved. I went to Ohio State. So moved to Minnesota about a decade ago. But Bengals are still the team I follow the most. And, covering the NFL from a league-wide perspective, you kind of lose a little of that fandom a little bit. But all my best friends are still Bengals fans. We still got a million group chats. So it's still the team that's pretty much at the center of my focus in terms of the NFL.
Exactly. And today we got some good news. Joe Mixon was found not guilty of the menacing charges and everything. So my question and the title of the show is, all right, he's found not guilty. Does he still get suspended? Because Roger Goodell still has the swinging hammer. He can do whatever he wants. And he has suspended guys before when they've been found not guilty. Now, Mixon has been a model citizen since he's been here. He's a community leader. He's given back a lot. He's been a great person, a great running back for us. Do you think that he might get suspended? Because that is kind of worrisome to me, because right now the backup running back room is kind of scary for me.
Yeah, the backup room is definitely scary. I think there's a lot of questions back there. There's a lot of things going on with Joe Mixon. Do I think he'll be suspended? I not for this incident. I don't. I think it was minor enough. And the fact that he was declared not guilty, I don't see Roger Goodell stepping in. You're right. Roger Goodell has all the power in the world. If he wants to say, I'm going to make an example out of you, Joe Mixon. Yes, he's been a good citizen for a while, but he does have a history. Maybe I'm going to make an example out of you. I don't see that happening. But of course, Joe Mixon does have this civil lawsuit against him too for the shooting incident earlier this year. If something comes up with that, depending on how that case resolves, maybe it's, there's enough baggage here that Goodell says, I'm going to do something. I'm going to step in. Just for this incident with the waving the gun, or theoretically waving the gun, I don't think he'll be suspended. It's too much of a he said, she said. I don't think there was any definitive proof that he actually did what he was accused of. That's what the judge agreed with. I don't see that happening. If he does get suspended, I think the Bengals have a real problem, because I don't think their running back room is really solidified. We haven't seen Travion Williams yet. He's dealing with an injury. Chase Brown and Chris Evans had their moments, but I think there's still work to do. Jay and I discussed on the podcast this week, is that a position where they go out and sign a veteran? Would they look at someone like Leonard Fournette or Kareem Hunt, guys that have gotten in just around the league but are still out there? I don't know. I mean, maybe they will. Maybe it'll depend on how some of the backups play this Friday. But it's very unsettled behind Mixon, and so much so to the point where if he is suspended, I think it would be a legitimate concern.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, once Samaje left, that was a big concern for me, regardless of what happened with Mixon. Is the number 2 running back. I'm a big Travion Williams fan, not because he wears the Jackpot Joey stuff, which he wears it all the time, which I appreciate, but I really like Travion. I really was hoping this was going to be his shot, to really prove, because I think Travion can be a very capable RB2.
Me too.
But he got injured again, and he hasn't played, and it doesn't look like he's playing again this Friday. I mean, he was out there, in just the jersey and walking around yesterday. Kareem Hunt, that's the one that all right. There's 3 running backs out there that Kareem Hunt, Zeke, and Cook. Zeke and Cook are both gone. Kareem
Mhm.
Hunt to me is the only one that's kind of. I mean, Leonard Fournette, yes, but if I had my druthers, I would take Kareem Hunt over Leonard Fournette. I think Fournette is a better pass blocker, and that might be, and that to me that's the thing. Dallas said, I think whoever is the best pass blocker is going to be the RB2, regardless, because you need that guy. Because Mixon's tried, but it's the thing. What's your thoughts?
No, it's not his thing. And the Bengals have shown time and time again they're not going to let him be out there on third down when it's going to call for pass protection. I think Kareem Hunt is a pretty good pass blocker, actually. Leonard Fournette is a really good receiver. I mean, he's been in the top 5 of running back receptions over the past few years. I guess the question for me would be cost. You know,
Right.
Zeke and Cook both got $5, $6, $7 million from the Patriots and from the Jets. If Kareem Hunt and Leonard Fournette are looking for that, I mean, I don't see the Bengals paying that number for a backup running back.
Right.
I just don't. I mean, at that point, you're getting close to what they're paying Joe Mixon this year.
Right.
I don't see that happening. So I think it would be, I think it'd take a couple things. I think it would have to be Tre'Von Williams still sidelined. I think Evans and or Brown would have to struggle this week, and if they play in week 3. And then you're getting to the season and you're just really worried about who's going to play behind Mixon. And maybe at that point, Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette haven't found the interest that they want on the open market. Maybe some of these teams like the Colts and Vikings that are interested are not offering them the contracts they want. And they say, hey, I want to come to Cincinnati. I want to play for Joe Burrow and the Bengals, who's excellent at throwing checkdowns and getting the ball to his running backs. I want to play here, maybe win a Super Bowl, maybe have some good statistics. And next offseason, I'll get a 1 or 2 year deal that's maybe a little more in my market. We'll see. We'll see how it turns out. I really do think it's going to come down to how a couple of these guys play against the Falcons. I think that'll really influence their thinking.
Yeah, like I said, again, I'm rooting for Tre'Von. I hope it's him. But again, I mean, I don't want to say he's injury prone, but he's been injured a lot, unfortunately. And
yeah,
he's walking around fine. I mean, so maybe it's over. Maybe they're already cool with Tre'Von being that guy. They don't need to see anymore, and they want to see more from Chase Brown. And actually, I thought Chase looked pretty good against who they played last weekend. I can't remember. Can't remember now who they played last weekend. Yeah. Anyway, the team
I'm blanking on it too.
I was at the game and I can't even remember now. Anyway,
I've already moved on to week 2 in my
right.
mind.
No, that's right. But anyway, Chase Brown looked pretty good last weekend, and from what I've been told, Jason Garrison, he covers the Bengals for Cincy Jungle. He said he did an in-depth thing on Chase Brown, and Chase, in his opinion, Chase is actually a pretty good pass blocker. I mean, do you have any information of how good Chase is? Because I mean, he got a lot of work at Illinois, and I don't think he did a whole lot of pass blocking, to be honest. But according to Jason, he has.
Yeah, I think he did. I think he got a couple opportunities in the preseason game and was fine. But I think that type of stuff is hard for a rookie running back, honestly.
Yeah,
I think coming into the NFL as a mid-round pick and trying to be counted on in those important situations is not something that comes easily. So I think guys who have done that and been in that situation before obviously have a leg up. There's a lot, NFL defenses are much more complex for the most part than college defenses. They're going to run stunts. They're going to run games. They're going to blitz from weird areas on the field. It's not always going to be easy. And I don't think Chase Brown is necessarily he's not going to be able to prove that he's a good pass blocker in the preseason because teams are running such vanilla coverages. Right. Maybe he'll get a few opportunities, but it's not like he's going to have to pick up some, amazing blitz that some coordinator drew up for a preseason game. I think he looked pretty explosive on some of the plays that he had against the Packers. That's who they played in week 1.
Yeah. Holmes helped us out there. I had a brain cramp. Like, who did they play?
Me too.
Like,
yeah, I'm excited about him, and I'm excited about Tre'Von too. I held Tre'Von all year in my dynasty league as one of my lottery ticket backup players, thinking that he was going to be the number 2, and I think that's probably what the Bengals' plan was going into the offseason. Is he'll be the number 2, Chase Brown will develop as the number 3. It seems totally up in the air now. Maybe you're right. Maybe they know they want Tre'Von and they don't need to see any more from him. We'll see. I'd be kind of surprised at that just because he's had such limited opportunities during the regular season that they probably would want him out there if he was able to, but we'll see. I think all 3 will probably make the team. So it's not like they have to decide right now, you're our number 2, you're our number 3.
Right.
This is how we're going to do it for the season. I think all 4 guys will make the team and they can probably mix and match how they want as the season progresses. But Yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's definitely not solidified. It's something that I'm going to be watching tomorrow night for sure.
Now, what's your thoughts on Chris Evans? Because he has been one of the most frustrating and exciting players since he's got to the Bengals. I mean, I've seen him make only a couple plays, but they've been pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get on the field very much. So what I've been seeing and hearing that he's dedicating more to pass blocking and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily – is it his pass blocking or is he hasn't got his nose in the playbook? What is it? Why is Chris Evans getting in the doghouse so many times with Zach Taylor?
It's a good question. It's one I really don't have the answer for. I know he's been working on his pass blocking. Jay wrote a story this week about him in practice this week, giving Jackson Hill one of these, like, come get me. I'm ready to take you on. So I think it's something he's working on. I think Chris Evans is by far the best receiving back on the roster.
Yeah.
I still have that catch he made against the Lions in 2021 stuck in my head, where he's lined out, split out as the wide receiver, 25 yards down the left sideline. I mean, when you flash that level of talent, it's hard to get that out of your mind.
Right. Exactly.
What could that look like in this offense? I mean, remember what Joe Burrow did for like Clyde Edwards-Helaire at LSU. He made him a first-round pick because he was so accurate on those dump-off passes and could get a check down pass in there and avoid turnovers and avoid negative plays. I really do think if you could harness Chris Evans's talent and figure out the best way to use him as a receiver in this offense, I really do think he could be maybe on Gio Bernard's level. I know Gio Bernard was an excellent player.
But he's got to be able to block. That's one thing.
He has to be able to block.
Awesome at blocking.
Exactly. And that's the problem.
Right.
That's the problem. And hopefully, it's hard to work on pass blocking in the offseason. There's not a lot of guys who are like just standing around ready to rush the passer and give you opportunities. So,
right.
I know Jay's written about he's done other things. He's done martial arts and other sorts of workouts to help him try and get stronger and get more physical. And I think that's what it is. A lot of it's a mentality thing too.
You got to want to do it.
You got to want to do it.
Right.
It's a physicality thing. So yeah, we'll see. I hope he does get opportunities and more in the preseason to prove that he's worked on that and he can be more involved in the offense, because I really do think his upside as a receiver is pretty high.
Yeah, and I think it's like people think it's some people act like it's easy. I'm like, you literally take a free rusher, who's got a full head of steam, and you get there,
exactly,
and block him and stop him when he you have no momentum. He has all of it.
Who might have 40 or 50 pounds on you, and
especially if you're Chris Evans.
Exactly.
Right. So it's not the easiest thing to do. So, I mean, that's where, to me, and the thing is, what I love about this team is we're talking about backup roles. I mean, everything else is set.
There's not a single starting spot on this team that is up for grabs. All the, how many teams, how many fan bases would love to say that? It's all who's going to be the wide receiver 5, who's going to be the defensive lineman number 9. It really does speak to how well they've done at putting this roster together that these are the debates we're having.
Exactly. Now, with that being said, this is one thing that I've said on my show lots of times here this year, that to me, Zach Taylor and the Bengals have had more of intense practices this year. They've had the pads on way more time. Like once they put the pads on, they haven't taken them off, which is not typical of a Zach Taylor training camp. They haven't said this. This is my own thought here. I think that they've become more intense and more focused because they want to get out to that 3-0, 6-0 start that they haven't done the last couple of years to go get that number 1 seed, to make Kansas City come here and play us in the jungle in the AFC Championship. I mean, again, Bengals haven't said it. They're not going to say it. I mean, have you noticed any of that or for anything that Jay's been telling you?
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's without a doubt that they've gotten off to slow starts in the recent past. And a lot of that has to do with Joe Burrow and what he's had to deal with in the offseason. And of course, here we are again, Joe Burrow not having a normal training camp or normal offseason. And
that's the normal, not normal for Joe anymore.
Exactly. And I don't have any, I don't know what you think, but I don't have any doubts he'll be ready for week 1.
Oh, no.
So I'm not concerned about it from that standpoint. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they've really emphasized that, hey, we need to get off to a good start and put ourselves in a position where we're not going to be trying to catch up to teams at the end of the year. Because look at the AFC. Every year it just gets stronger and stronger.
Yeah,
all the talent
keeps coming over here.
Yeah, all the talent seems to go from the NFC to the AFC, and it's just incredible. Every game is going to count, especially the divisional games. I think part of that also is what we talked about before, trying to get that physical mentality. I think there might be a sense that the Bengals are a little bit of a finesse team. They've got the wide receiver talent and, they do a lot of stuff through the air. But I really thought they started to come on last year when they started to do more gap scheme runs. And obviously Orlando Brown is going to be a huge part of that. And I think they want to be more physical and say, if we have to ground you into the ground or run you into the ground, we can do that. We can obviously do stuff through the air, but we want to be able to play in both phases of the game. I think you see the other AFC contenders doing that same thing. Look at what the Bills did this offseason, going out and drafting another tight end and drafting a guard and adding a big running back in Damian Harris. The Chiefs are using more bigger personnel. I think that's just a kind of an NFL league-wide trend as defenses adjust. But I think it's probably something the Bengals are focused on is we want to be a physical team, smash mouth team when it calls for it, because we know they can do everything else.
I was about to say that because I'm like, everybody keeps asking me if they're going to run the ball more. I don't think they're going to run the ball anymore. I think they're going to run it or try to run it more consistently.
Yeah.
Now having the interior line, the same three guys, I think is huge. And that's going to help the run game, let alone with Orlando Brown and General Williams at your tackles. But that's where I'm at. I don't think we're going to be anywhere close to becoming a run-first offense. It's just going to be we can run the ball more effective than we've been able to the last couple of years.
And I think try and break some more big plays. And a lot of that can be luck, but I think if you can create the holes, Joe Mixon can still hit the hole, and these backup running backs can still hit the hole. I think that was the problem last year was, we can run the ball, but we're just not getting any chunk yardage out of it. It's 4 yards here, it's 5 yards there. We can create the explosives to the pass game, but it's just not happening on the ground. You want to get more multiple. You want to get more versatile. I definitely think that'll be something they focus on this year.
Yeah, it just wasn't consistent. I mean, Mixon had the 5 touchdowns against the Falcons. He had the great game against Buffalo. But there's a lot of times where it just not him, just the running game just wasn't there. Yeah. And that's where I think that they are going to try to be more physical as far as that goes. And so that's where, like I said, I keep saying I don't think they're going to run the ball anymore. I think they're just going to be more consistent. Now let's talk about the only other position that I'm kind of worried about getting to backup. Well, Irv Smith hasn't been out there, but it's tight end. And now it's kind of the same room as it was last year, except for you got Irv Smith and traded him, or you take Hayden Hurst out, you got Irv Smith in.
Right.
It didn't hurt us so much last year. Wilcox came in and played well. Wilcox hasn't practiced. He's been on the rehab field almost the whole preseason there.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the tight end room? Are we okay there? I mean, because you got a couple teams, the Jets, who was Buffalo got a couple of tight ends that they could cut. I mean, could this be somebody that the Bengals might be looking at the waiver wire at the end to pick somebody up? Or what's your thoughts on the tight end room?
I would think they have to. Yeah. I don't think the tight end is going to ever be like a huge part of this offense. I think Hayden Hurst did what he could do last year, decent.
Right.
If Irv Smith can match that, I think the Bengals would be more than pleased. I don't know if Irv Smith can match that. Irv Smith is a former second-round pick, but he's really never done anything in the NFL. Even when he's been healthy, he really hasn't done anything. I kind of have my doubts about how much he'll be able to contribute this year, but who knows? He's young. He's getting inserted into this awesome offense. You never know. Drew Sample obviously is going to make the roster. Wilcox still on PUP. At this point, I mean, it seems like he might be there into the regular season and miss at least 4 games.
Right.
So I think that would open up another spot for either Devin Asiasi or Tanner Hudson.
I've been impressed with Tanner Hudson. I've liked what he's done this preseason.
I have too. Unfortunately, he got a concussion in that last game, and you wonder with an inexperienced player, how's that going to set him back, and how's that going to change him in the eyes of the coaching staff? But yeah, I think they'll absolutely be looking at the waiver wire for a tight end addition.
Now, one thing about Irv Smith, and he's a different player than Hayden was.
Yeah.
Do you see them going more wide with him, the wide schemes? And because I mean, he can be a wide receiver out there. I mean, that's one thing I've noticed in practice. It seems like they've done it a couple times when he was out there, that he was out wide more. And that, to me, is a dimension of this offense that they could use. Not a lot. Again, this will never be a tight end first team, but it is a different element that they could possibly bring to the team this year.
I think so. I mean, why not, right? Why not give more versatile looks to defenses? And I think Irv Smith can block, but it's obviously not the focal point of his game. He's more of a receiver. And if you want to get him out in space and get him away from having to chip or block defensive end on his own, I think that could happen. And Joe Burrow obviously likes going empty, and to spread out all those guys and get the ball out quick, I could definitely see that happening. I think if I've been negative on Irv Smith, but he is athletic. He has a good athletic profile. And yeah, I'm curious to see how they deploy him, but I guess not to be a negative person, but I just have low expectations.
Well, it's kind of hard. He just hasn't done it. And
he just hasn't done it. And
we're just going by facts.
Yeah. He'll at best be the fourth option in this offense, maybe 5, depending on how much they introduce the running backs into the passing game. So I'm curious to see what he does. I guess tepidly optimistic, but I'd probably have lower expectations than most.
Now, one thing, the big story here in Cincinnati is Jackpot Joey and his calf, calf gate, like I keep calling him. And, Joe's like, I'm done. If you're injured, you don't talk to the press.
Yep.
So last Friday, all of a sudden, Joe Burrow's on the field running around, not at full speed, running around, throwing the ball, no limp, no sleeve. He could have went to the practice bubble.
Yeah.
Nobody would have saw him. Dallas, he did that on purpose to show everybody, look, I'm fine. Everybody relax. I'll be back week 1. My opinion. What's your thoughts?
Oh, totally agree. It was definitely by design. Absolutely. He could have done this literally anywhere. He could have done this at home. He could have done this under the stadium, in the practice fields, wherever you want.
Friday night, baby, right in front of
Friday
everybody.
night. I'm out here. I'm ready. And yeah, I think it goes back to what you were talking about before about these slow starts that they've been having. And I think Joe Burrow is saying, I'm ready. I'm here. I'm not missing the start of the season. We're going to be just fine. And you're not going to have to worry about these struggling backup quarterbacks for too much longer because I'll be back. Yeah, exactly.
Well, the funny thing is I've been, I won't say a fan of Brandon Allen, but I was always okay with Brandon Allen being our backup quarterback because I keep saying if Joe Burrow goes out, we're screwed.
It's the eternal argument, right? How much do you invest in a backup quarterback, and does it even matter? Yeah,
and that's the thing. It's kind of like we got Travion Simmons, who I thought he was going to be okay. I'm really rooting for Jake Browning, to be honest. He's been in the system long enough.
Yeah.
But Dallas both of them look like ass right now. I mean, honestly, neither one of them are playing very good. And I'm like, hey, 49ers, you want to trade us back Brandon Allen?
Totally.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's the couple years ago, it's funny how many different arguments I got with people on the show about Brandon Allen. I'm like, he's fine. He's a backup quarterback. He's fine. But so I guess my question is, unless they show something this Friday, meaning tomorrow night, do you think the Bengals try to go out and pick somebody up? I mean, Nick Foles is still out there.
Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I mean, there's still guys out there.
Yeah.
I don't know if any are any better than what we have. I mean, Nick Foles did win a Super Bowl, but he's not on a team.
It's so tough, right? Because if Joe Burrow goes down for the season, the season's over. If Joe Burrow misses 6 games, the season could be over. Yeah. You really just want someone who's capable of coming in for like 2 games and like keeping things just above.
Or come in like when Patrick Mahomes got hurt in the
exactly
something like that. That's all you
need. I think Brandon Allen is probably not here for a reason. I mean, they didn't really make any effort to re-sign him.
Right.
And it's not like the 49ers gave him a ton of money. I mean, he's their 4th quarterback. He's making the league minimum if he even makes the roster, which I don't think he's going to. They have 3.
Well, I heard they might trade Trey Lance so he can get in there.
I've been hearing that all summer. When he gets moved, I'll finally believe it. I don't know who's trading for him at this point.
I mean, I wouldn't. What are you giving up to get him? I mean,
exactly. So, I mean, I think Brandon Allen will be out there if the Bengals want to bring him back.
Right.
But it's like, they could have re-signed him in April or March when they wanted to. Trevor Siemian, it's not like they went out and signed him on day 1 of free agency either. I mean, they waited till May to sign him.
Right.
I thought there were a lot of other better backup quarterbacks available, even until recently. Like Teddy Bridgewater just signed with the Lions.
Right.
I think he'd be a huge upgrade on Trevor.
Matt Ryan's still out there.
Matt Ryan is still out there. We've seen Trevor Siemian. We know who Trevor Siemian is. We know what Trevor Siemian's going to do. He was not good in that preseason game.
Nope.
Wasn't playing with the best of talent, but I mean, God.
But his passes weren't. They were the screen pass to who was that? Was that Chase Brown? I can't remember who it was. But it took 4. It's like he's still standing there waiting.
I know. like the decision making, the ball placement, just like not great. Not great. Mm-hmm. I don't think Jake Browning was like a ton better, honestly, and obviously doesn't have the arm strength that most NFL quarterbacks would need. But my former colleague Arif Hassan, who covers the Vikings, said that when Jake Browning was with the Vikings that all the Vikings, I think this was an exact quote, love the shit out of him because he's just like a gamer. He's a guy who's going to go out. He's like Taylor Heineke, you know, like one of those guys who's I'm out here. I'm a gamer. I'm going to get this done. I think people respond to that in a backup quarterback. So we'll see. I wonder if they bring in someone like Carson Wentz, who maybe not like a bad guy off the field, but in the locker room seems to have issues wherever he goes in terms of leadership and teammates kind of going against him. And are you going to bring a guy like that in to be a definite number 2 and feel confident that he's not going to kind of rile things up? I don't know. I think Brandon Allen will probably be the most likely option if Browning and Simeon just continue to really struggle, but kind of wish they would have invested a little more in someone else like earlier off this season, just in case something goes down with Burrow. But it's hard. It's hard. That gap between a starting quarterback, even if it's just a league average starting quarterback to a backup, is always going to be huge, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's, do you go out and spend $5 million on this, or do you just say, we're going to give you the league minimum, and if you have to come in, then it is what it is? It seems like that's the direction they're going now.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed about Browning because I really thought he would take advantage of this, to be honest. Because, I mean, let's be honest, last preseason, Jake looked pretty good.
Yeah.
And Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, they go to Jake Browning during the game, say, hey, what are you seeing? You know, they go talk to Joe, but Joe might be looking at something else. So they go talk to Jake, and he's a respected voice, go-to guy in that locker room. Like you're just saying how much I love them in Minnesota. Yeah. That's where I'm like, dude, this is your opportunity, and it's fallen by the wayside so far, and it's kind of really surprising to me, to be honest, that Jake has not taken advantage of this.
Yeah, and maybe that level of like leadership and relationship he has with other people on the team is enough to get him this backup job, especially if him and Simeon play equally poorly. And maybe they'll go with a guy who's been here and is respected by the team. But you know, Trevor Simeon's starting this week and is probably going to get at least a couple drives with the starters. They haven't exactly revealed if they're going to play the offensive starters or not, but it sounds like
defensive starters. I know that they said that.
Yeah, Mike Hilton gave that up. So I don't know if he was supposed to or not, but I'm guessing they'll play at least a drive or two. So Simeon will get the benefit of playing with those guys. And Browning, if he comes in the second half, is going to be playing with worse talent. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, we'll see how it goes. I don't know. I don't know. Trevor Simeon has worked with Brian Callahan before in Denver. He's got that going for him. So there's pros and cons for both guys. And we'll just have to see how it goes.
Either way, neither one of them are Jackpot Joey. So
that's true. Who is that?
Right. Let's get the Crypt Keeper's question here. So, Mr. Dallas, do you think Myles Murphy was a reach? He didn't show much last Friday, knowing he is young, but nobody gets a free ride on a Super Bowl caliber team. Now, he wasn't at practice yesterday. I don't even know if he was in the building yesterday, so I still haven't heard anything about that. What is the status of Myles Murphy?
I don't actually know. I don't know what's going on with him. I mean, he played in the preseason game. We'll see. We'll just have to see. We'll see if Jay has anything on that. But do I think he was a reach? No, I don't. Because if you look at mock drafts, like early in the college football season, I mean, he was like a top 5 pick.
Right.
You know, I don't think he maybe had the production profile that a lot of other guys did on the edge, which is why he slipped. But I think you have to love getting a guy with that upside at the end of the first round. And it's not like the Bengals are drafting for starting players anymore. You look at what they do in the secondary. They draft a year before the need comes up, which how else would you want an NFL team to operate, right? This is what they're going to do. I think Myles Murphy is obviously behind Joseph Asai. He's going to be probably the 4th edge rusher, but that's fine. I think do
you think they'll play him inside more? I've seen him do both at training camp.
Osai or Murphy?
Murphy.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see him playing inside, and I think obviously like Hubbard can play inside, and I think they'll have a lot of different formations. They have a lot of defensive linemen. They're like overflowing with depth at that position to the point where they're going to have to cut some talented guys. And
that somebody's going to pick up. They're not going to make it to the practice squad. Somebody's guys.
Someone like Dominic Davis or Tufele. I think other teams are going to be lucky to get those guys.
Right.
No, I think Myles Murphy was a good pick. I'm always in favor of drafting guys at premium positions in the first round. I mean, I'm glad they didn't go out and draft a linebacker or a guard in the first round. You want to take someone like an edge player who's going to give you a good return on investment. I don't know if he'll have a huge role this season, but that's okay. I mean, I think that's why you draft these guys a year early, so you can continue developing them. And next year, when after Burrow gets extended and hopefully T gets extended and there's not as much money left, that's okay because you're paying Miles Murphy at a rookie salary to play hopefully a very valuable position. So, no, I don't think he was a reach, but we'll just have to see how he develops.
Now, I got a question. My favorite player on the defensive period is DJ Reader, and I do not think I bang the drum all the time. I do not think he gets enough credit for what he does. Go watch, and I keep telling everybody, go watch the playoff game against Tennessee. Just go watch him. Watch what he did. He helped shut that running game down. And we saw it last year when he got injured. We didn't stop the run as much as we did, and we do not have anybody to replace him. I know everyone's like, oh, you can draft somebody. It's not easy to draft somebody like DJ Reader. With him being a free agent at the end of this year, I'm getting a little worried. And now I was surprised they extended Trey. I was surprised they did both. They signed Logan and Trey. I honestly thought Trey was going to get cut at the end of this year because Miles Murphy. Now I'm worried. We're going to sign DJ because we literally don't have anybody to replace DJ.
It's tough, right? And I think the Bengals are usually against giving third contracts to veteran players. Right. It's not something they normally do. And for the most part, I think that's a smart strategy. You look at the history of NFL veterans on third contracts, they normally don't work out unless they're an elite level player. NFL careers are just really short on average, and guys quickly fall off. I obviously think you're right that DJ Reader is one of the most underrated players, not just on the Bengals, but I'd say the entire NFL.
Yes.
He is an incredible player, and he's a nose tackle, right? He's not going to get 10 sacks.
No,
but
he makes such a difference.
You can't say that he doesn't affect the passing game because he lets the Bengals put more bodies in coverage because he can handle far more on his own.
Yep.
So he's not going to take the quarterback down a million times, and he's the average NFL fan might not even know who DJ Reader is, but he obviously has an effect in this defense. Will they re-sign him? I don't know. I think interior guys like that can last longer than maybe other positions. I think we've seen that in the past. But I don't know. They really don't have anybody else behind him who can play that specific role.
That's what's scary to me.
And they're really not producing those type of guys in college even anymore, right? So I don't know. I think he'd be a good player to re-sign, but you've obviously re-signed both the linebackers in Pratt and Wilson. You've got big contracts coming down the line on offense. Can you afford to extend another veteran player? It's going to be tough.
They're really going to run out of money sometime.
They're going to run out of money, and good thing they're cheap in the secondary, right? They've got a lot of young players there. I don't see them re-signing Cheeto, so I think they're probably going to be really young there for a while, which can let them spend more money elsewhere.
Good and fast.
Yes, definitely.
I think they have one, if not the fastest secondary in the NFL. These guys can all just flat book.
Yeah. And I would say their first preseason game was incredibly impressive, right? It'd be people going into this game and thinking Jesse Bates is gone, Von Bell is gone, the back end is toast. Well, not so quickly. Dax Hill was really, really good.
Battle.
Made a lot of plays. Tyson Anderson, obviously. I mean,
I'm happy for him.
Me too. I loved him coming out of Toledo. I was really happy the Bengals got him. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased. And Nick Scott too. Nick Scott is not a young player. He's a free agent, but he's on a cheap deal, and he's a good, solid player who can maybe be like a point guard type guy back there. So I'm excited about that. And then obviously the corners, DJ Turner,
Drago.
I'm almost confident him being a starter immediately if he has to be. And DJ Avi, is he going to make the team? I think he's on the bubble. I don't know. We'll see. I hate for the Bengals to get rid of someone like that, but yeah, I'm really, really impressed by what they're doing in the secondary.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Paul here's got a question, and it's the elephant in the room, I guess. Is Jackson Carman project over? Can we make this transition? And if when he played in Buffalo, I'm like, all right, maybe the light bulb went off. Maybe he did good. And then seeing him Friday night, it's like you look like you went backwards, and now apparently he's back to playing left tackle again too, because that's the only position that it looks like he's done good at. I'm just, what do they do with this guy? I mean, and you have Lyle Collins, you got Cody Ford. Those guys I think are in. Sharping I think is in. I mean, is Jackson Carman is his days over as a Bengal?
It's tough to say because, like you said, he was great in that Buffalo game.
Right.
So much so that I was thinking, could he be the Bengals left tackle in 2023? Jonah goes to right tackle. Right. I mean, hey, obviously that's not going to happen now. he was bad. He was really bad in the preseason game, to the point where I was thinking that maybe he didn't know he was going to go back in the game and he just mentally checked out. But Jay said that's not the case. That Jay said he knew all along he was coming back in.
Right.
So maybe just frustrated about, being a former second round pick and being in here at the end of this preseason game with all these future accountants and everything. Maybe just kind of pissed him off, just didn't give any effort. But that's not going to cut it with the Bengals offensive staff.
We actually have legit offensive line. La'el Collins is going to be a backup. I think I've said this for a couple months. I said, do they keep La'el as a backup, put him on the pup list?
Yeah.
Dallas, I think that's what they're going to do. And I want to keep him because I've said this on my show. Last 2 years, Super Bowl, AFC Championship game, we've had injuries at our offensive line. If you have a guy like La'el who could, when he's healthy, could come in and be your swing tackle, or if Jonah struggles, he can come there, whatever. Having him as a backup is awesome. I think 31 other teams would kill to have La'el Collins as your backup.
I don't think you want to be in a playoff game or a Super Bowl again with Hakeem Adeniji and Isaiah Prince in your starting lineup, right? They just can't let that happen again.
Oh,
and I don't think the Bengals, Orlando Brown's a really good player. I don't necessarily think they have a superstar along their offensive line, but I don't think you really need that, right? I think having above average players' competency at every position is actually the way to go on the offensive line. And I think the Bengals are there. And then on top of that, to have the depth, to have someone like La'el Collins as a sixth offensive lineman is a luxury in the NFL. Mm-hmm. How many teams are looking for offensive tackles, let alone a guy that can play tackle and guard, right?
Right.
So I think in the aggregate, they've gotten so much better along the offensive line. And if someone goes down, they're going to have a competent piece who can step up. What that means for Carmen, I don't know. I do wonder if they could maybe just trade him. I wonder if he has any trade value left.
Let's trade for Trey Lance. What are you going to get for him?
Right, exactly. If there's some team out there who liked him coming out of the draft, or still thinks he's worth a second round pick, the Bengals used on him, maybe they could trade him. But I don't know. Jay still has him in his 53-man roster projection. We'll see. He's obviously in the doghouse right now, and I think he probably needs a good game tomorrow night to get back on the good side of things.
Now, speaking of Orlando Brown and Trey Henderson, they got into a fight in the very first practice. Yeah. And for the most part, Trey has gotten the better of Orlando. He had made a great one-handed catch or interception the other day. And people were like, what does that mean? What's that mean for Orlando Brown? I don't think it means anything for Orlando Brown. Trey is just a psychopath. They call it lights out Trey. Literally, Dallas, I've been there at practice, and he's all in game mode or whatever. I'm like, hey, what's up, Trey? He goes, and he's like standing like, oh crap, he's gonna
blackout Trey.
Blackout Trey. He's all like, all right. Yeah. He doesn't turn it off. Is that more of Trey just taking advantage of Orlando, or is it more of Orlando has got the backup quarterbacks that hang on to the ball too daggone long, and that's why he's getting to him? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's probably a combination of all that, right? Trey Henderson's a good player. I would expect him to beat even good offensive tackles a decent amount of the time. And Orlando Brown, I think he's a really good player, but he's obviously a stronger run blocker than he is a pass blocker. But I think that's going to work to the Bengals' advantage, because we talked about before, I think they want to get more physical.
Right.
And you looked at last year, especially when they started running more out of the shotgun, that everything seemed to be more in sync. And the run game was working alongside the passing game, and it all kind of meshed together. And I think Orlando Brown's going to be a big part of that. I think you look at him in the run game, he just wipes dudes out.
Yeah.
He just takes them right out of the equation.
Pancakes them, baby. Absolutely.
So I think that's where he's going to impress the most this year. He'll probably have some moments where he doesn't look great as a pass blocker.
Everybody does.
Yeah. And I think it's, no matter what happens, he'll probably be better than the play they got at left tackle last year. And hopefully Jonah can be okay on the right side too. And I think this is the best Bengals line. At least since the Andy Dalton days, at least.
It's 2015 is what I've been saying.
Probably 2015. Yeah, that's probably right. Yep. So yeah, I think they're so much better up front, and I'm excited to see what they do.
Now, going back to how we talked about earlier that we think the Bengals are trying to get off to a good start, 3-0, 4-0 start, whatever. Yeah. Are you surprised? This is the first time Zach's done this. He's going to play the starters on defense, at least for one series. Again, I think they're trying to get off to a good start. Are you still surprised that they're going to do that?
Yeah, I am surprised. I'm surprised because if I were an NFL head coach, I'm not sure I'd ever play my starters in the preseason. You know, maybe some of the young guys, maybe someone like Dax Hill, or it makes sense that he was in last week, who didn't play at all last year. But yeah, I don't know if I'd ever put my guys out there. I think I'd take like the Rams approach under Sean McVay and say, you guys are not seeing the preseason field at all. Because I mean, what's the point? What's the point if are they getting enough from one drive? Does that really mean enough to weigh against the risk of getting hurt, of one of your key players getting hurt? In my mind, it doesn't. In the Bengals' mind, it obviously does. And I think also the players probably want to play too.
Oh, yeah.
And Zach Taylor is a player's coach, and he's going to, if they feel really strongly about something, he's going to go along with that. So I think there's a lot of factors like that. My personal opinion, I would never let them see the field, but let's just have our fingers crossed that nobody gets hurt.
Now, with that being said, that they're going to play at least one in the series, and I kind of go against what you say with the offensive line. Last year, the way they started, I think the offensive line should have played at least some in the preseason. Now, the three guys in the middle are the exact same three. Jonah's on the other side. Now we got Orlando.
Yeah.
I could see them coming out for the first series in the last preseason game. I don't know if they will or not. What's your thoughts on playing the offensive lines again to try to get off to a better start?
No, that's a good point. Maybe offensive line is the one position where I think you're worried about continuity.
Right.
And how is Orlando Brown going to mesh with Cordell Wilson once the live action starts? I think that's true. You want guys to be able to communicate. You want guys to be able to see who passes off what blocks and just how they work together. And that's hard to do in practice, right? Because you're not really hitting. You want that game action. Hopefully they've been able to do some of that in like joint practices. I think they can do a little bit of that and work on that communication. But it's a good point. I think the offensive line, especially if you have even one new member, you probably want maybe a series just to see how things go.
Now let's discuss the RB4 here. You got Chuck, who's got a coolest freaking nickname, Chuck Sizzle. I thought, when he come out, he was going to be the wide receiver. I say RB, I meant wide receiver 4. I think I said running back, wide receiver 4. But Yoshi Voss, now my boy Greg is going to go freaking nuts because he loves this dude. But Dallas, he looked pretty freaking good in that preseason game. And it's preseason, and there's always the preseason gem. There's always a guy like, oh my God, he's going to change the league. And right now for the Bengals, it's Yoshi Voss. But he did look pretty good.
He did. I like him a lot. I would just say, let's all calm down just a little bit. This is a 6th round pick. What's the historical hit rate of 6th round pick? It's like 8%. I love what Andre Yoshibas has done so far, but let's just back off before we say he's like the next AJ Green. But I do like him, and I like Charlie Jones too. Yeah. Charlie Jones was incredibly productive in college, and he's back healthy after having that shoulder injury. Hopefully these guys don't really play on offense this year. I mean, that would be ideal. They would spend most of their time on special teams, and then maybe next year Charlie Jones could take over in the slot for Tyler Boyd. And, if Higgins isn't extended, maybe Yoshibas is an option on the outside. Yeah, it's exciting. It's very exciting. I don't think you want them contributing this season. I think what's interesting though is like, are they going to keep 7 receivers?
Right.
Because
that's okay. So if they keep 7 or they keep 6, who's your 6 or who's your 7? Okay,
so like Chase, Higgins, and Boyd, obviously.
Right, obviously.
I don't see how obviously you're not cutting a 4th round pick on Charlie Jones.
Right. I
don't see how you can cut Yoshibas at this point.
Okay.
And then Trenton Irwin, I think, is the wide receiver 4.
Yeah.
Like locked in.
He's had a great preseason.
Absolutely.
Great preseason.
And he showed it last season too.
Yes.
He showed it last season that he can step in. So then I think those are all locks. The question is, how valuable is Stanley Morgan?
Right. And that's mostly for special teams. It would be Stanley Morgan.
And Darren Simmons would say he's very important.
Right.
But, I don't know. There's going to be
but then you got Yoshi and you got Chuck Sizzle. Can they replace well, not Chuck, because he'll probably do more punt returns, but Yoshi, can he go out there on stunts and stuff like that? Can he replace what Stanley Morgan does?
There's going to be a roster crunch somewhere. Mm-hmm. There's just going to have to be. It's either going to be a defensive lineman gets cut, or Stanley Morgan gets cut, or Michael Thomas gets cut, or DJ Ivy gets cut. Someone that we like is not going to be on this team, or is going to be on the practice squad. And I don't know. We'll have to see what maybe injuries will play a role in that if something happens. But yes, I would put Stanley Morgan firmly on the roster bubble right now, unless Darren Simmons is just like, either you keep this guy in the roster or I walk. Which, I don't know. I don't know if he's
standing on a table
put
for
his job on the line. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Now, one thing about the special teams, there was a lot left to be desired last year, and I really think in this draft they addressed a lot of issues in the special teams and making Darren Simmons happy. How much more improvement do you think the special teams will have with I think Chuck Steele? I think he's going to be the punt return as long as his shoulder's okay. Yeah. Interesting. I did see Yoshivas take on some kickoffs. I think it's going to be Chris Evans, though, but you never know. Just what's your thoughts on the special teams in general?
Yeah, I mean, I would think they'd love to get more explosive and get more returns, but the NFL is kind of, they don't want returns to happen right now. Right. So they're trying to take away any opportunity for that to happen. Special teams, I think it's pretty random sometimes. I think can be the result of just like a few big plays here and there, but I think Darren Simmons is obviously one of the best special teams coordinators in the NFL.
Absolutely.
There are a few guys I trust more than him to get guys
years.
Ready. It's incredible.
Yeah, and NFL coaches don't stay any place that long.
No, definitely not. I think the punting should definitely improve with Brad Robbins. I'm really excited to see what he does.
The bald bomber.
The bald bomber, yeah. It's unfortunate Drew Chrisman had that kind of medical incident, but I think Brad Robbins is probably the choice all along. Anyway, you don't really draft punters and then cut them. That's not something you want to do. But yeah, I would think they should get better. I think Evan McPherson still one of the best kickers in the NFL, despite some struggles. But anything they can do to put the offense in a better position, to start in a better field position, is obviously going to be great. And I would expect a little bit of improvement.
Now, Michael here's got a question: is how severe is Charlie Jones' injury? So from what I've heard, he's got a torn labrum, which is same thing Logan Wilson had, and he played through it during this playoff run in the Super Bowl. Is that confirmed that he actually does have a torn labrum, or do you have any?
I actually don't know. I don't know if he has a torn labrum or not. I mean, he's back at practice, and he's
been back. Yeah,
he's gonna play on Friday. So
right.
I'm not sure the specific nature. I know it was a shoulder injury, but I think if he's gonna, I don't think they would play him if there was any long term concern.
Right. I don't think he can make it any worse.
No, exactly. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that.
Now, another question I want to get from Michael. He asked us a little while ago. We have Lou Dini, the mad scientist. He said, do you see Lou blitzing more this season? My personal opinion is if you got Murphy, Osai, Sam, and Trey out there, I don't think you're going to have to blitz. I think he might play them more. It's just my thing. Put DJ in the middle, have those four go after him, and not blitzing, just getting pressure with your front four or front five.
Yeah, I think that's the goal, right? For any team is to not have to blitz all that often. I'm trying to see where the Bengals were last year. It looked like they were bottom 10, bottom 12 in blitz.
Yeah, we didn't get a whole lot. We got more pressures, but we didn't get a whole lot of sacks.
Yeah. So I think the goal would be just to get pressure with the front four, and I think they've built up that defensive line enough to where they're not going to be asking guys to play a ton of snaps.
Right.
The starters will play their snaps, but they're going to have waves of pass rushers.
They're going to be able to give Trey and Sam a break this year.
Yes.
And that's a big thing, especially for Trey, because Trey doesn't know how to stop.
Exactly. And I think if you look at the best defensive lines around the NFL, 49ers, Jets, these are units that are two defensive lines worth of depth, right? It's like a hockey team. You bring in the second wave.
There's rolling lines.
Exactly. I think that's what you want on a defensive line, is guys you can just get after it. So I don't know if I'd see a higher blitz rate. I think maybe some more exotic blitzing, some more blitzing from different areas, and they've done that before, right? I mean, they'll rush 3 and drop 8 into coverage, or blitz guys from weird places and play stunts and twists up front. Lou's a mad scientist, man. I mean, I don't rule anything out, but I think the blitzer will probably be around what it was last season.
And one thing was interesting. I told Lou yesterday at training camp. I said, I hope you're our defense coordinator next year. He said, I hope so too. Which I think he was just saying that tongue in cheek. I'm sure he wants to be a head coach, but damn, dude, if we lose him, it's gonna be tough.
And that's the thing, right? I mean, Joe Burrow's right. The Super Bowl window is his entire career. Yeah. Yes, that's true. But there's a lot riding on this season because a lot of cheap players still. Joe Burrow's still cheap. T. Higgins is still relatively cheap. Jamar Chase is still cheap. And not only Lou Anarumo could get a head coaching job, maybe Brian Callahan gets a head coaching job next year. Yep. They both got a lot of interviews. Mm-hmm. These are the type of guys that teams want. Who knows? Who knows if Dan Pitcher's the offensive coordinator next year? Who knows what could happen? I think this is the most excited I've personally been about a Bengals roster and team in a long time. And it feels like they're at the precipice of something, and I we'll see if they can get it done.
And I think Dallas is everybody, all the coaching staff, they're all back 5 years in a row, except for Frank Pollock. He came in year 2. Everybody else is especially I don't know. I might be wrong about everybody, but your coordinators, your head coach, your offensive defense coordinator, your special teams, they're all the same. That never happens.
It never happens because coaching staffs either get fired or good teams lose their coordinators, right? It never happens. It's a very rare scenario.
They lost both of them.
Exactly. And you don't want that. I think that I'm curious to see how that works for the Eagles, and maybe a preview of what the Bengals could be dealing with next season. But
exactly. Now rolling into the first week, and you've been up for 55 minutes. I don't want to keep you any longer, but rolling to the first week against the Browns. I'm sick and tired of the Browns think they have our number. I'm like, this is such an overblown stats. 2 of the games we didn't give a crap we played them or not. Yeah. My personal opinion is I think the Bengals are going to go there and they're going to just shut them down. I think the whole focus is we're going to set a tone for this season, and it starts week 1. What's your thoughts of going into Cleveland and going into the dog pound?
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Right. I think the Browns are a pretty good team, though. I really do. They are. I think they've done a lot to improve their defense, especially up front. Dalvin Tomlinson, Zadarius Smith, Okoronkwo. They have a really good team, and hiring Jim Schwartz as defensive coordinator, I think, should do a lot. They added some pieces on offense. Deshaun Watson, I don't know how he could be worse than he was last year.
Right.
Especially compared to how well Jacoby Brissett played the first half of the season. I mean, it was just god awful. I couldn't believe it. We'll see how he meshes with Kevin Stefanski's offense. Maybe he's just not a fit in this offense. We don't know. Maybe they can't fire Deshaun Watson. So maybe they'll, but I think it'll be a good game. I think the entire AFC North is going to be really competitive this year. I keep trying to decide what's the better division, AFC North or AFC East. There's a lot of strong teams in both divisions. It'll be very curious. I think every divisional game will be a battle. I don't think there's going to be like an easy game. I'd be surprised if there's like a big blowout between the Bengals and any of their AFC North opponents. But I think the Bengals are a better roster, but I don't think it's like this huge gap between them and Cleveland.
Yeah, it's going to be a bloodbath. I mean, obviously, I think the AFC North is the best division of football. But, I mean, it's going to be fun. I can't wait for it to get going. We got, what 3 weeks away from it, I think is what it is.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm ready. We're going to be at our RJ Cinemas here in Cincinnati watching the game. If you're ever in town, you should come, and it's a road game. You should come over to RJ Cinemas. It's a movie theater. They got food. They got the game on the big screen TV. It's an absolute blast. That's my go-to place for road games.
That sounds incredible. If I ever get back anytime soon, you got to mark me down for that.
I will definitely do that. All right, Dallas, I appreciate you. Tell everybody again where they can follow you, about your podcast, what you and Jay got going on before I let you go, and anything else you want to plug.
For sure. ProFootballNetwork.com. Me and Jay every Tuesday. Pro Football Network Bengals podcast. We're going to be dropping every week. Make sure to cover or follow Jay's Bengals coverage. For me, I'm writing about the NFL large. If you want other team coverage, I'm on there. I'm on Twitter, or I guess X, at Dallas D.
Whatever you call it now.
Dallas D. Robinson. Get at me on there. So yeah, great. Thanks so much for having me on here, Jeff. Really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. We'll have to do this again sometime. Maybe longer in the season. Maybe I get you and Jay both on at the same time.
Yeah. Let's do a trifecta.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Take care.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I mean, go follow Dallas. I mean, he knows his stuff. He's a Cincinnati guy living in Minnesota, but he's a Bengals fan covering the NFL. Go follow. Of course, go follow Jay. Everybody loves Jay. You know, Jay's got stats. Also, I should ask Dallas if he's got to get some stats for Jay. Maybe I'll have to bring that up next time I get him on the show to do some stats for me for Jay. Anyway, let's get to the Facebook groups that let me live stream, and I appreciate every single one of them. They are Houday Nation, Houday Legion, Bearcat Ruckus, Radical Reds, the Ohio State Buck Nuts, the Ice Bar, and you can follow me on all my social media platforms, all under Sports with Strawberry Ice, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X, and Threads. You can follow me at Twitter or X at JeffATrunapole.com or Jeff A. Trunapole. TikTok is at Iceman90. Threads is Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'll be pulling this out later on tonight. Put it on the podcast on BeanPod, Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google, Stitcher Play, pretty much wherever you get your podcast. Please make sure you rate, like, and review. Give me a 5-star review and a comment so more Cincinnati fans can find my podcast. YouTubers, you guys are awesome. 2,324 subscribers. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up on the video. Give me some subscribes. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors about my podcast, because obviously, I can't do this without you guys. Tomorrow, I have a very interesting guest. I have Laura Steele. If you guys are a Bob and Tom fan, she is the news girl on Bob and Tom. I remember her from the Dawn Patrol here back in the 90s. She was the news girl there. She's living in Indianapolis. She's been a Cincinnati DJ for a while. She's obviously with Bob and Tom now. So it'll be very interesting, fun Football Friday show. So make sure you join us. Like your pregame before the Bengals Falcons game. Come join me. Other than that, you guys go subscribe to Bengals and Brews. Go subscribe to Rally Around the Natty. Have a great time. I'll see you tomorrow. And that's just sports, baby. See ya! Good play. Come on.